Welcome to
People of Purpose.
People of Purpose.
People of Purpose.
People of Purpose.
People of Purpose is a podcast of inspiring people whose stories help you see things differently, live with intentionality, elevate the way you participate in the world, and take the necessary leaps in your life to seek and find your passions. Come with us and develop the courage to wholeheartedly pursue your purpose and unleash your truest potential. What's up, Tanin? It's great to see you all the way from, you're in Vancouver and I'm in Thailand. Just gave birth to our child, and I'm here in the village where my wife comes from, and I'm really excited to talk to you. You hit me up about talking about self-esteem, and you think that men are not talking about it enough, and I'm someone that you've deemed worthy of a longer conversation to unpack any wisdom I might have on the subject in order to help the male species be better at relating to the world and each other and potentially the female species. So I'm here to talk about whatever you want to talk about today.
Amazing. Hey, Tanner in Thai village with new baby. I'm Tanin. I am in my house in Vancouver, Canada. And I think this is something that everyone could benefit from. Self-esteem is something that is deeply shaped in our childhood and kind of stays with us unless we choose to reprogram it. And I think a lot of people could just benefit from higher self-esteem.
Yeah. How would your life benefit from higher self-esteem? What are you up to in your life that would elevate if you had it?
Yeah, I think it really shows in every area of business. Like a lot of people, I feel like they equate their worthiness and how much they receive in life. It just directly correlates with their self-esteem. Like you see some people who feel really good about receiving and they don't kind of doubt their ability to do so. And then others are a lot more resistant to it. And then even in relationships and all sorts of relationships, it's like being very intentional about surrounding yourself who have like a healthy self-perception is really important. And yeah, I did hit you up because I think upon meeting you, this was like, 3 years ago, 4 years ago now? So crazy.
Yeah, when I used my self-esteem to convince you to come to a party with me in LA instead of take your Uber to wherever you were going.
Yeah, and then eventually move into the startup house in Kansas, all the way from Canada. Yeah, one of the first things I noticed about you was like, oh, this person seems to have like a very healthy level of self-perception.
That's good you used the word healthy. I know it was high, but maybe not. Maybe sometimes you see it as too high.
I mean, I don't think so. It's important to know where people are coming from. And I think that for some people, they might say that, but I think overall, most people struggle with having a healthy level of self-esteem. I think now more than ever, we need people of purpose who have healthy self-perception so they can go out in the world and really serve. And it's really important. And I think that you're someone who has gotten really good at that more than most people. And so I had asked you a little bit about your journey with self-worth, if you've always felt pretty good with yourself, or if it's something that you struggled with when you were younger, growing up, and then eventually you kind of went on your own journey. I'm really curious about that.
Yeah, I would say when you asked me, it was hard for me to spotlight a certain time or chapter of my life where I was like, okay, I went from not having self-esteem to having it. It feels like a gradual development that's all these little tiny moments and experiences and influences that generated in me. I've thought of a few things that have kind of accumulated over time since you asked me. I would say one of them is getting into school, like kindergarten, first grade, second grade, that kind of time. I realized that people liked me and I could be me and people would like me. Like at that age, I wasn't worried about fitting in or being popular or saying things to get people's attention. I was just being me. And I had no other like reference point before that because I'd basically just been with my mom who'd been a stay-at-home mom. It was just a lot of me and her. I had married parents until I was 4 and she was a stay-at-home mom that entire time. And so my mom thought I was awesome, but I didn't know that others would would like me. And then I got into school and I saw that I can nerd out about things I read. I can like shout out ideas that I have. I can like exhibit some new learning on the board in front of the class. I can be the guy that people want on their basketball team at recess. I would like win us dodgeball games in PE and these kind of things. I think just like at that young impressionable age show me that I can be all the sides of me and I'm happy and people are generally happy about that in me. And so why would I try something else? And then I would say like as I became more aware of other people's experiences, like I would say I had my first girlfriend when I was 3rd and 4th grade, and I changed schools and around that time also, and I saw that other people were creating this like perception of a perception of themselves. They were like wondering what others thought of them, so that then they would perceive that to be true in them. And I saw that was like a really broken way to look at things. And so I noticed that other kids would create this perception of a perception about themselves. And so like what other people said about them, they would be so impressionable that they would now think that about themselves. And I noticed that when I would start to have closer friends, or I had my first girlfriend, or I was on sports teams where we would have struggles and failures and letdowns together, or I was on like the spelling club, or I was in the math club, and I was putting myself out there and I was failing and I wasn't losing my self-esteem, but others would struggle with those things. And I noticed one of the first ways that I started to kind of live this people of purpose lifestyle was I would talk about that with people. And it was fun to generate more self-esteem in myself by seeing that I can bring people back to their authentic self. And then people would tell me, I had like a lot of times, I would say 3rd through 6th grade, where I would have sleepovers. Like I would invite people over to my house, or I would be invited to someone's birthday party. And I would be the one that stayed up all night with 1 or 2 people, breaking down their lives and like them being so grateful that like they have clarity and they have purpose and they have direction. And that's a role I played in a lot of my friends' lives during that period of time. I was really energized by conversations about like what drives people and what creates like purity and honesty and integrity in like yourself. I didn't have like all the words necessarily to describe it that way, but that's what I was passionate about. Like more than anything, I wanted to connect people to what like lights them up and makes them happy and feel free. And that just pouring that transformation into people gave me, I would say, a sense of like, I matter, I belong, I create impact that's meaningful. Yeah, let's keep it going.
How old were you when you started like coaching people at sleepovers?
I don't know, probably 3rd and 4th grade is when it started, and then I was doing sleepovers until probably 6th or 7th grade. There was more than 10 occasions where I had stayed up all night, like I never went to sleep, and I still do it. Like at an ayahuasca thing, or sometime I did the 10-day meditation. I had one night where I don't sleep. I don't know. There's just certain times where it's just like I feel so wired into something matters more than like charging myself for the next day. Like this moment is highly purposeful. Let's be entirely present. Yeah.
No, I love that because since I've known you, like you've always been that person where you're very present. Once you start a conversation, like it could go on for a really long time. And then also like just the way you do really hold space for people and encourage them to tap into their gifts is something very beautiful. And I just love that about you so much. And it's really funny to hear that you have been doing that since childhood. You're just like Coach Tanner.
Somewhat, yeah.
That's really cool.
Back then it was a little bit of like Coach Tanner and also like, let me show you. And so I don't know if this is healthy, but I've always kind of perceived like a lot of people are watching me and I'm like the one under the spotlight. Like all the journalists are critiquing me and all the fans are here to observe me play the game of life. Like I got all these mentees, quote unquote, that are watching me. Let's step into the moment. I still perceive it like at frisbee. I'm like, we're on the line ready to throw the disc to start the point. I'm like, there's 50,000 screaming fans. Let's go. Like something about like the people are observing our life motivates me to live by example, I would say. And then that creates this loop of like I'm living by example, then I'm coaching, then I'm living by example, and like I get introed into other people, and I get put on special teams, and I get special projects and assignments, and I get to start to live this different lifestyle than the common person is living.
Mm-hmm. I think a lot of people, especially growing up in school, had, you know, the experience that your peers had, where it was like they started to perceive themselves through the eyes of others. They would respond to the feedback that others would give them, especially like negative feedback. Not everybody was always getting
Yeah.
positive feedback. A lot of people were bullied. And so, did you ever experience like bullying or negative feedback that you ever took to heart? Or was it just something that you, for some reason, just didn't absorb?
I would always take feedback to heart. I still do today. I just don't see it as like anything to do with my sense of self-worth or self-esteem. It's just like, okay, someone else has helped me be more mindful of where I'm held back in life. I have many things that hold me back. I don't quite understand when people are done having a conversation with me. I don't quite understand when to stop putting people, like pressure on people to change their lives. I'm constantly selling and pitching ideas and visions to people, and sometimes people don't want to hear more about that. I don't know how to do lots of things. Like I'm bottom 5% about like, mechanical tasks. I just don't know how to open jars and close things and fit things into bags and all the basic living skills. Like I'm worse than most people I know in those areas. My dad's an engineer and extremely good at all those things. I'm the exact opposite, and I get made fun of for that by my family. My wife is,
Mm-hmm.
always joking around that she's like the family's contractor and I like don't know how to fix my own house. I would say those are subtle forms of bullying. I got bullied a little bit. When I moved to my new school in third grade, I got bullied. And the third week of school, I got suspended because I got in a fight. I fought my bully. I didn't really fight him, but I definitely brought out a lot of aggression on him. And he was way bigger and stronger, and he was older than me. And he was like star athlete and popular and good looking. And he was better than me at all, like the physical traits, basically. And he was making fun of me for, I don't know, like the way my mind works. I always like to make kind of clever, nerdy, intellectual jokes and bring them into these like macho arenas and make fun of how serious these like macho meathead people are. And I was like subtly bullying him, I guess, to all my scrawny nerd friends. And then he started using his physical stuff on me and bumping me and stuff when we played soccer at recess. And eventually I just jumped on his back and started punching him. We got suspended. But like after that, he never messed with me again. He respected me. And I would say that I've been able to, I don't know. I had another one where my friend in seventh grade got bullied really hard. They poured a water bottle over his head at lunch and was laughing at him. And I grabbed this kid, Derek, and I got his shirt up in my hand. I threw him against the locker. And I said, don't fuck with my friend again. And there was a lot of people watching. There was at least like, I don't know, 30, 40, 50 people watching that scene. And I don't know, things like that. People don't get too serious about messing with my group because I'm going to draw a boundary. I don't know. I put boundaries on that stuff. I
So,
don't let people like degrade me. I understand when it's playful. Most of the time it's really playful and fun and creates connection, and I'm about that. I'm okay to be like a punching bag of the group to unite the group a little bit. But when it's like just straight up mean, like I call that out, and I like, and then I'm able to kind of, I don't know, stab into some of their insecurities. Like it's really easy when a bully is being a real bully, like it's because they are insecure in themselves. And so I can usually like pretty quickly find that fragile spot in their soul and speak into it. And then they're like really, I don't know, there's a certain respect that comes when I can find that in them.
to anyone listening to this, when your bully bullies you, bully them back and then give them a life coaching session.
Just draw a boundary. Like
Um,
we were listening to the same psychologist, right? That Sadia girl. She talks about like the high value man is able to like forego he's not like letting his partner like do whatever she wants that could hurt their relationship and then just like letting it slide. And it's the same way for me. I found that like the people that became bullies were actually in my friend group. They weren't like my main friend, but they would be like a friend of a friend, or they'd be on the same sport team as me or something like that. Like they knew me. It wasn't like a stranger that was bullying me. And
Hmm.
so I feel like I'm an ambassador to the group, and I'm going to make sure our group is good. And this guy's either in or out of the group. This type of behavior doesn't belong in the group. Here's the boundary, make a choice, dude. And if
Hmm.
they choose to remain a bully, then I'm going to get the popular opinion on my side that this person's got to be out of our group. And if they choose to change, then I forgive very quickly.
Interesting. I'm really curious though. So school was a very positive environment for you for the most part
I
then.
love school, yeah.
And so what about like at home? Because a lot of the times people will also kind of take on their parents' self-esteem. So like if you have insecure parents, you're going to end up talking to yourself the way your parents kind of talk to you or talk to themselves. And so I'm curious about your experience with that.
That's a good question. I would say my mom would talk about to me differently than she would talk to herself. She would make me feel like I can do anything, that I'm destined for greatness, that I am really special and all those type of things. So
Aw.
that's kind of the mindset I adopted. And I watched her have her own struggles with her sense of self-worth, but I don't know, like I guess I was old enough at that point to see like, okay, my mom is struggling, that like her main identity is not being my mom anymore. It needs to shift to something else, and she's not finding that. And she's having like men come and go in her life, and like that was causing a sense of feeling down. But I felt like at that age the choice is like, let's increase that self-esteem in myself and be like a good man of the house here. Like let's give her confidence that like I've got this, and she can step back a little bit, and I can figure out how to make us money, and I can do the yard work and the laundry, and like I don't need help on school anymore, and those type of things. And then on my dad's side, I would say he was always pretty grounded in his sense of self. My dad's push was more to like share it with others. He was just always single, and he never really wanted to be around a bunch of friends. He had a like same job for 42 years, same city his entire life. He would like work on the house, and he had similar routines on how he spent his week like his evenings and weekends. And so with my dad, I saw like, okay, my dad is really consistent. He's stable. I want those traits in me. I admired that. But then I wanted more like adventure and novel experiences and like immersion into cross cultures that my dad wasn't seeking out. And so I would guess I was just able to kind of compartmentalize, like I like this part of my dad, this other part like I want to be different than. So let's do that. I don't know. I didn't feel like I needed to overthink anything. It's like I like this, I don't like this, I want to be this, I don't want to be this. I didn't feel like it was like hard to like make my own identity.
It sounds like you were really good at just focusing. Like you wouldn't get off in the weeds of what you didn't want. You're just like, I'm gonna focus on this
I've always thought it's silly
instead.
that people spend so much time like swimming in their emotions, and like just get into the next thing and start doing it. Like if you're feeling bad, go on a walk and then go to a park and join the kids basketball game, and you're probably going to find joy again. You don't need to sit in your room and like feel depressed. Like I don't know, like
For sure.
yeah, it's like just get back into the world and be in service and contribution and have genuine impact. Like recognize that it's just a setback. It's not you're permanently damaged for the rest of your life. Like you had a breakdown, and
For sure.
there's a lesson to be learned here. And I still today just remain very curious about what is there to learn here.
Do you, when things would come up for you that were, say, more challenging, how do you feel that you navigate something that feels heavy?
There's a
It
lot of
could be
really heavy
anything.
things, I would say. Like, so my mom had me arrested. We changed custody with my parents. I got a pretty bad concussion. I don't know, I was broken up with. All these type of things happened to me too. It's not like I'm like immune to these things.
For sure.
I would say, what exactly do you want to know about these experiences?
Well, how would you emotionally navigate them? Because when you are, say, getting arrested or getting broken up with or going through any challenging period that could very well also challenge your own self-perception. Like, how did you navigate those feelings that would come up?
I would seek to understand what is the root of why I feel unease in my life, because the default in my life has been ease and flow and happiness and connection. I had a good childhood. The main thing that was broken was my parents were divorced. But I had two loving parents. I had a great brother. I had an awesome school system. I got involved in all sorts of extracurriculars. I was smart and able-bodied and popular and all these things. So it's like, in general, my default was ease, but I would realize, like, okay, there's something. I'm like questioning myself, and I'm self-conscious, and I'm tired, and I feel like I'm not sure if I matter, and I'm not sure if there's a point to living, and these type of questions come up, and I would be like, okay, what's at the root of that? And it would usually be like there was usually somewhat of a pivotal experience where it's like I went from ease and flow and happiness into this like more sinking feeling. What's been going on that caused that? And it was usually some sort of a external event that I told myself a story about, or I didn't process fully, or I like said that's pretty heavy, I'll have to like bury it and wait for later. And so I would find times, I would say, on like the weekends or like a school break, like Thanksgiving or Christmas or summer, and I would try to read and understand about it. I would write a lot. I've always journaled my entire like since I can remember. Like my mom trained me to write out my feelings and stuff. So since I was 12, I've had a nightly journaling routine. I've like basically journaled 99% of the night since I was 12, and I'd always reflect on peak experiences and things I learned, areas I failed in, relationships that are starting to matter to me, any low points I'm having. And I would just start to meditate, like, why do I have this low point happening? And then I would say if I couldn't really figure it out, like I would just start talking about it with people. Hey, I'm feeling this. Hey, I'm feeling this. Are you guys feeling like this? Like, I just talk to teachers. I talk to my parents. I talk to my brother. I talk to any girl that I was close with. I would talk to my guy friends that maybe were into more emotional stuff. By the time I got older, I had a therapist, and so I would talk to her about it. And then I don't know, like I'd just seek out mentors basically, or people that would listen to me, and then they would suggest things that I do. Listen to this song, read this book, try this activity, and I would just try these things. And that's where I started to learn about emotional intelligence and about meditation and what the concept of trauma is. And I'd be like, okay, well, it's not all my fault. Like, there's this thing called karma, there's this thing called trauma, there's this thing about like my brain and body are developing and evolving. There's this thing called puberty, there's these things called hormones. Like, it's not a total mystery anymore. It's somewhere in this intersection of hormones and trauma and puberty. I should probably figure out what my viewpoints are on God. Like, people talk about God giving meaning and purpose. My mom is like way into that. My dad doesn't care at all. What is it? I don't know. So I would just use these things as like sources of fascination and curiosity about like how to live a rich human experience. And I wouldn't get too caught up in like, oh, my life doesn't matter. I'd be like, okay, this is interesting. It's directing me to this entire subject matter that I knew nothing about. Now I'm 13 years old. Let's read about emotional intelligence. And like just diving into that. And I check out every book I can at the public library. I spend my weekend reading 10 hours of stuff, talk about it with my parents, stay after school and talk about it with my favorite teacher, start to grow.
So, what you just shared is like really, really, really beautiful and just so incredible because what I'm really hearing from you is that you would literally just go into it. You would set a time or you would be really intentional. And correct me if I'm wrong. But it sounds like you were very intentional about connecting with whatever was going on versus avoiding it.
Sure, I don't know if I'm better than others at it, but I would avoid it enough until I'm like, avoiding is not the solution. Like, it's growing. It's there. It's starting to metastasize. It's becoming cancerous in my life. Like, I was just a jerk to that person. I was short-tempered here. I got angry with my mom. Like, why? My mom is not the reason I feel like that right now. I would get in trouble. I was angry and aggressive and all these things that boys get to be sometimes. I you know?
Hmm.
Lost at a video game and stabbed my brother's door with a pick, like an ice pick, 100 times. And my mom's like, "What's wrong, dude? Like, that's not normal behavior to lose at a video game and stab your brother's door." Okay, well, let's go into that. Like, what's going on? Why am I behaving like that?
Would you say that you're, well, yeah, I mean, you're just a human being who also obviously experiences like triggers and difficult things that come up. But I'm really curious, would you say that your threshold for these things, for like the discomfort of these things is lower than others in like a positive way, where in the sense where like foresight, right? Like some people, they might hit a wall and be like, okay, like it's fine, I'll just go around it, and then they hit an even bigger wall and a bigger wall until the issue gets so big that they may have to look at it, or they just keep trying to go around it. So my essentially what I'm asking is, would you say that like you wouldn't tolerate the discomfort or pain of something as long?
I guess so. I guess so. I hadn't thought of it like that. I guess that's true. I wouldn't say that's like was the impetus. Like I would say that still today, like I'm in Thailand right now. I don't have things to do. I'm on paternity leave. Our baby sleeps all the time. I support my wife in these key moments along the day, but like in general, I have a lot of time right now. And I find what I'm doing is just like learning, studying people. I'm reading biographies and I'm diving into wise people's thoughts. I'm reading from founder of Chick-fil-A, from the founder of Home Depot. I watched the Aaron Rodgers documentary that just came out yesterday. I like study about like how podcasters are asking better questions so I can get into richer conversation. I'm reading from Bob Goff, who's someone I really admire. Like I was doing the same thing when I was younger. Like it would be like I was learning about Michael Jordan and Magic Johnson and um, famous athletes. And then I was learning about George Washington, Abraham Lincoln. And I was doing more than just the basics to pass the assignment. Like I was really meditating on like, I see a trait in me that is in this person. If I can just really trust that, and if I can remain in a certain level of wholeness and integrity to how I was designed, I can be a George Washington or a Michael Jordan at whatever I apply myself to. I just always had that confidence since I was super young. And so anytime I'm starting to feel like, all right, I'm getting broken down, I'm feeling like I'm losing my sense of understanding of who I am, like I would take those moments very seriously. Cause like that's one of my greatest fears, I would say, is to not know that I'm forever gonna live below my potential. I would say our society gets really numb to like what's missing. They don't really remember what vitality feels like in their body or their spirit. They don't remember what like true love is like. And now they're just living these like diminished experiences of life. And I've just always been really perceptive of, okay, I'm starting to live a diminished experience of Tanner. And as a consequence, the people in my life, because I've always been very social and extroverted and involved, the people in my life are giving me feedback that they're not really loving this version of Tanner that's angry and upset and mean and short and just egotistical. And sometimes I use like my intellectual skills to like, belittle other people. These were like the tools I would use as an adolescent to like win. And I would much prefer to win by being loving and uniting and free, like free and joyful and happy and pull out the best of others instead of like in this competitive state of like I'm proving to people I'm better than them. Like that seems to be the way I go is like if I'm in some level of breakdown, I don't really show it as like I don't know, like less than people. I end up kind of overcompensating and letting very in the ego of like I'm better than all these people and why can't they see the world my way? I just really scared that like that becomes like my personality and then that becomes my personal reality as Joe Dispenza talks about. And so I
I
would
think
try to catch that as soon as possible and take it very seriously.
what I'm really taking away from you is you're someone who just really cares about how you feel. A lot of people like, because you're like, okay, I have this clear vision of who I want to be. And when I'm feeling something that I know is not in alignment with that, I am going to be fully transparent with myself and go into it versus letting it take over me. And something that I notice with a lot of people is when there's this cycle in their life of like going through the same emotions or old ways of being, they're still avoiding it. like they're not fully transparent with themselves about like what's going on, because they're like they fear the fear essentially, and then they just kind of like keep going in this cycle versus being like really transparent, because a lot of people are scared. They're scared to know like what their internal world and their stories might mean about them, and they let those kind of take a hold of
What do
them.
you think is so scary about looking at your internal world?
See, I think it's an illusion that it's scary when it's actually not. But the I think maybe something that people struggle with, and even like I'll think of like an example from my own life is feeling if I'm not achieving, say, a certain result, whether it's in any area of my life, if I'm not getting something I want, I think people, myself included, might sometimes look inwards and be like, oh my God, is there something wrong with me? Like, is there this, does it have to do inherently with my worth as a human if I am not receiving this external validation on the outside that is going to show me, oh yeah, you are worthy of this, this, and this, which is something that I've thankfully come out of, but I think it's come out that I've thankfully come out of more than not fully out of it. But I think it's something very deep people struggle with.
Yeah, I would say I interpret those experiences differently than people do. Sometimes it's really hard for me to relate to
Exactly.
normal people because I don't choose what they choose in their reactions to things. I don't know if I'm wired different or
Mm-hmm.
conditioned different or something's different, but I see it as they don't see who I am. It's their fault. They didn't try hard enough to observe me. They're not able to tap into the subtleness of like the greatness of me. They're stuck on these like
Absolutely.
mainstream standards of what they want, and it's my job to live louder and bigger and brighter so that they see that. And that's where I could elevate, is I'm still like living too small. And so like let's live bigger about Tanner like next time is like the story I tell myself.
You need you need to record like a guided meditation for people on that.
Yeah, okay. I led a
Yeah, I would
guided
actually.
meditation at the last Dharma House thing. It was a 45-minute one. There was like 20 some people there. And this was a concept I talked about during it. It was like brightening your light and letting others see you more. I think that's really, really valuable stuff. Yeah, like I said, I think the reason that you're not getting invited to groups, or you're not being seen for who you know you can be, you're being judged on your current reality. Like I'm constantly positioning myself as like, when you invest in Tanner, you're investing in this guy that's down the road that I know is coming regardless of if you're investing in me or not. But do you want to join the ride? Because I'm going places. And like I create this perception of like I'm someone worthy and valuable because of where I have come from and what I am now, of course, but also like I'm going here. Like I know what vision I have for my future. And lots of times I think people don't have that. And so they're being judged off of their current reality, which is always it's a mixed bag of things, just like I am. But you can kind of break that tiebreaker of like, okay, there's some good, some bad, but he's got this clear vision that's better than he's at now. So I'm going to take a bet on him. And I think a lot of people don't have that going on in their life. And so they're just being evaluated on their current. And usually when I find that I'm not picked to be on a team, or I'm not given the opportunity, is because people don't see the vision I have for my life enough, or they don't see the subtle things of like how I broke out of where I have come from to now. I didn't tell my story well enough. I don't have a narrative where I'm the hero in it enough that they see that. And so it's my job to like get better at telling that story next time.
Also, I love everything you just said. Something else for anyone who's listening that may have been like a subtle thing they're not picking up on, or they are, is like A, you're operating from the inside out versus the outside in, and B, whatever it is you're wanting from the world, you're giving to yourself first.
Yeah.
Like if I want, like if I whatever I want from people or the world in general, whether it's like the level of abundance in my life or the type of relationships I want, it's like I have to give whatever I perceive those things are going to give me. I have to give it to myself first. That's how the world works. It's how the universe works. You can't demand anything of the world that you have not yet given yourself.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like no one is going to pay attention to me. No one's going to invest in me or care about me as much as I'm able to. So why would I stake my future on other people's opinions and beliefs and valuation of me? Like, look at our lives. Like, even right now, you're investing in me. You're here for an hour. How much are you going to think about me in the next 24 hours? It's going to be these like fleeting moments. I'm like priority 863 in your next 24 hours. Like, why would I base like my growth on that when I could be my main priority all day long? Like, it doesn't make
You're
sense to me.
higher on the list. I think of my friends more than them being number 863. But yeah, it's a really good point. You're like, because nobody thinks about you. Like everyone's gonna think of themselves more than they think of anybody else. Like nobody actually cares.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
it's a really good thing to know.
Yeah.
It's like no one's thinking of you. Nobody
I
cares.
also see the same thing about
Everyone
like
just cares
risk.
about them.
Like, why does it matter if you risk like something socially? People are real quick to forget. Like, you're out of the news cycle and now you're back to like Tanner again. Remember when I did that little silly thing? Like, you forgive me for that, right? Yeah, sure. And then same thing when you're doing something great. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, 2 days later, yeah, sure, I'm the guy that like won this game and I was the quarterback. Yeah, like I was getting cheered on by all like the prettiest girls in school. And so what? Like, I'm still here, not able to figure out a math problem. Like, it doesn't matter. It's like the external forms of validation like really don't matter as much as we emotionally feel they matter a lot in the moment, and they matter for like having a rich life, but that's not where you base your meaning and purpose off of. It's just like, sure, let's
Hmm.
celebrate that I did something cool and I'm being acknowledged externally for it, but that is definitely not where I'm like gonna build my next move off of. Like, let's come back and
For
like
sure.
internalize that experience, and yeah, just not get too swept away by what other people think about you. That would be like such a tornado of identity. That stuff is constantly changing all the time.
There's this trend right now on like TikTok, social media, where people are humiliating themselves publicly as like exposure, as like rejection therapy.
Uh-huh.
And there's like, there's some really good ones out there. Like there's this girl who will get up like on a plane ride and just like tell like everybody sitting, have a great flight.
Nice.
In order to to boost their
I
self-esteem.
think it's super valuable. I'm constantly trying to figure out what would be like such a stretch that people laugh at me. They think I'm silly. They look at me like I'm an alien. Like, there's something about those experiences I like sometimes will seek out. I think there's growth in those experiences when you're being silly and goofy and free. Yeah, it's like I think it gives permission for other people to do that when you're able
For
to live
sure.
that way around others. My stretch is more like, don't be the guy that takes up all the like burns so brightly that everyone else is just like repelled and like leaves and doesn't feel like permission to shine their own light. Like, I need to know when I'm not the main person and to step back and to give someone else a stage. I would say as a adolescent and teenager, I would usually just like hold that stage as the main person for extra long.
Just a little bit
Yeah.
sometimes. That's cool. What about like you have a daughter now, Luna? What do you think that is there any specific way that you intend on raising her in order to instill kind of this same energy in her?
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to tell her a lot about what to do or think or believe or how to perceive her own experiences, I will be leading with a lot more stillness and questions and encourage her to immerse herself in experiences and have her own definition of them. Is probably going to be a big aspect of it for me. Um, I think other people want to teach their kids lots of things. I
Mm.
don't probably want to do a lot of that. I want her to come to me when she has questions about how things work and how life is, and I will meet those questions with dialogue rather than answers. I would say is probably a
Wow.
thing I'll be doing.
I love that answer. That's awesome. That's really, really cool.
I felt like as a kid, I always felt like these adults really aren't like ahead of me on understanding life. I don't know who planted that idea in my head, but I always just felt like I'm same playing field as an adult. I didn't look like it. I didn't have certain skills as they do, but some like deep level of consciousness is the same as an adult. Like I'm perceiving reality, I'm watching things move and shift and change, and I'm reacting to those things, and I'm choosing what to keep and what to discard and who I am in this process versus, what's just around me, and am I part of some bigger meaning and purpose or not? Is this random? Is this designed? Like we're all just living in this mystery. And I felt more so than a lot of adults, I was able to remain like equanimous with it, like not get too swept away in one direction or the other. And I saw lots of adults get too stressed out or anxious. For the longest time, like anxiety felt like such a foreign emotion to me. I was like, why do people feel anxiety? Why do they let it live and breathe and like persist in their life? Like, it's just they're making up a fiction about what could go wrong, and then they're attaching to that feeling, and then that thing goes wrong because they brought energy to it that would make it go wrong. Like, I'm definitely not going to live like that. I would, yeah, it was probably like the anxiety. I saw adults have anxiety. I did not have anxiety. And I still like very, very rarely feel anxiety. And when I feel it, it's like,
Hmm.
it's gone in 2 seconds. It's like not a thing that like can attach itself to me in any meaningful way. Like I don't have nourishment for anxiety. I think it's the stupidest, meaningless feeling. Like it doesn't really provide any value to my life to have anxiety. So
I love that.
yeah.
Is there anything in your life right now that you feel like you're wanting to let in more?
But
Yeah. Is there something that you feel like you may have resistance around right now in your life? Or do you feel pretty like,
I mean, I
no,
think like
everything's,
the push with Tanner is to not get too into Tanner.
yeah.
Yeah, I tend to, I don't know how it happens, but the world starts to revolve around me wherever I'm at. So people are serving me things and giving me opportunities and taking care of me, and I'm not necessarily giving or contributing at any of the levels that I'm receiving. And so it's about being more of a giver of things and to be in service and to spot areas I can add value, is what I'm constantly striving for. And now as like someone who has a wife and a child, and both of them are going through a whole lot right now, giving birth, and I haven't had major changes in my physiological, but I'm watching my wife go through it, and our daughter is like figuring out how she can get food and sleep and deal with sounds and light. And I don't know. I'm wanting to figure out how I can. At this point, I know myself so well that like there's not a lot of new things I learn about myself that it's like, wow, I never thought that before. It's like, okay, this is the 812th time that I've realized I don't like doing paperwork. But like the health insurance people need us to submit our bills, and my wife like never has any time to, and she's requested that I do it. Like if I'm being a puritanical person about Tanner's life being the greatest, like I'm not doing that. I'm getting someone else to upload bills for me. But there's something about like that experience about uploading bills that is like, all right, well, let's reframe it as like, yeah, I'm going to feel not so great, and I'm going to feel stressed and tense. And I generally suck at stuff like this. I can't figure out every time I have some technological glitch when I get involved with technology. And then I hand the phone to someone else and they click 2 buttons and it works. I don't understand. I got some weird karmic glitch on the technology and admin stuff. But the other day I just stepped into it and I was like, all right, like let's help my wife out. Like this website is being silly. It won't let us like upload photos. We have to convert them to PDFs because they're less megabytes, and then they're taking like 7 to 10 minutes to load on this site plus our internet in the village, and then the website's crashing, and then it's when we're logging back in, it's saying like the portal is like unavailable, and it was like that cycle for like 3 days. And I'm like, I can hit this with 3 devices and I can have them already in PDF format so we don't get stuck on this. And I just took care of it while my wife was sleeping. And I felt like shitty afterwards. I felt so tense and sweaty, and like these things are way harder than like, closing some big real estate deal. I much prefer that. But
So you don't
did it.
so you don't feel anxiety because you don't do paperwork
Yeah,
as often.
there's something that's happened, I think, recently where, especially being an entrepreneur, and I stepped into entrepreneurship like by design. It wasn't like an accident. Like I'd spent all this time in Thailand really thinking through what I wanted my life to look like, and then I designed a business that would slowly but surely get me out of it. And so now I'm basically out of everything in our company. I don't do any of the jobs or tasks anymore, and we do deals and make money and pay payroll for 14 people and have over $1 million of investment capital now. And I I sign on uh, almost $1 million of bank loans every single month, and I don't do any of it. And that's a freaking blessing. I love that. But what's happened is uh, I've created this like bubble of Tanner doesn't have to get involved in uncomfortable things anymore. And going into this pregnancy thing, I'm realizing like I don't really want that to be like my ceiling of like, okay, Tanner's created a bubble where he's never has to touch things that cause fear and doubt and frustration and anxiety. Like, I think those things should always remain somewhat in my life as these like little check-in points about how do I deal with more of these negative emotions or these shadow sides of myself. I don't think I should just design some life that's just like, doesn't have those in it anymore. And so I'm
Hmm.
stepping into some of those things again with the intention of contribution and service.
I love that. That's awesome.
It sounds like such a small thing, but like I struggle with the small basic things in life. And I'm usually better than most people at like the big, abstract, scary, risky, fear inducing things. Those things feel comfortable to me. It's more about like
Hmm.
the how do I, yeah, like I was saying before, where do I put the clothes? How do I fold them in a way that they won't have wrinkles? How do I not miss a laundry for the third round on my like sleeping boxers and short and like shirt? Because I just kept missing the laundry. And I'm like, that's because I use them multiple times. I'm not like washing them every time I sleep in them. Those type of problems, they just feel so hard for me to figure out. And like Knock Noy can just figure them out instantly. And then it's good for me to kind of be humbled and be like, okay, I can't do the basic things in life still very well. I need to get better at these. I'm about to be a role model for my daughter. It makes life
Yeah.
better when you can take care of yourself. So yeah.
Yeah, I saw you try to cut an orange once.
I said the hardest part of a 27-day fruit fast was getting to the fruit.
Getting to the fruit.
They're always encased in these
Yeah.
shells and these like things that need peeled off and these things that need cut and these seeds that need discarded, and that stuff is so hard for me. Like having the
Hmm.
discipline to only eat fruit for 27 days wasn't very hard. It's just getting to the fruit was hard for me.
Yeah. Cool.
Well, what was valuable from this in your life, Tanine? What are you up to in your life? Why do you matter? Why are you someone that we should be letting interview the founder of People of Purpose?
That was a few questions in one sentence. Which one do you want me to
The
answer?
last one, like, I guess I'm getting at your sense of self-esteem. Why do you matter?
Because I exist.
Okay.
Yeah, just like that's it. I exist, so therefore I matter.
And what have you figured out, like, is unique about your existence that when given or unleashed to the world, like, it creates a wonderful reality for you and others?
Well, you know this, but I am really enjoying building Rise in Rome. Rise in Rome is my travel company where I take people on trips, and yeah, I know for a fact that like my gift is being able to create experiences for people that are very unique and different and unusual, places that not a lot of people can easily access. So like in Guatemala, which was where we just hosted our last trip, like I got access to like the most famous archaeological sites after hours where like no one else is allowed in the park, but our group is. And we were staring at the Milky Way on like a 2,000-year-old Mayan pyramid. I'm good at that kind of stuff. So, yeah, just like my mission in this life is to sustain a sense of awe and wonder in people.
Hmm.
I think like I've always had this like childlike wonder, kind of like similar when you were talking about your experience with adults growing up. I always kind of looked at them like they were boring or like they wouldn't see the magic of life.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just kind of like, you guys are really boring. And so, yeah, I just want people to feel like a kid again. And they get to see this world that we live in and just be super, super excited by our surroundings. Cause it's like, why else are we here? Like, if you're not going to go outside and like see the cool thing and go into the jungle or like play with the kids that you just met somewhere, it's like, what else are you going to do?
Yeah.
It's just a full experience of being. So yeah, creating a container for people to just like be in awe and in wonder.
And what
That's my
what does that
mission.
take from you to be able to get that after hours tour? What kind of special stuff do you bring to the table that allows those gateways to open for people?
I'm really good at connecting with people. Also, like it's just like a series of events. Like the way this actually happened was, for example, we were at a famous site with pyramids in Guatemala, but the way I got access to this permit was I was in a village nearby this area. I almost got bit by one of the world's most venomous snakes. And as a result of that incident, where like I like could have died, like if it was 2 centimeters from my leg, it was getting ready to bite me. Had I not gotten out of the way like a second later, I would have like died in the jungle.
Mm.
No one knew where I was, and it was really really scary. And had that not had happened, I I essentially like left the village earlier because of that. And I ended up meeting this guy who worked at the park. I like ran into him and I was like, yo, like I almost just like got bit by this snake. And like he had all this information about all the reptiles in the area. And then I was like, what do you do around here? And then he's the one who ended up taking our group after hours into this national park that no one else had access to at this time. And we were like, it was incredible.
I love that.
So, yeah, so everything is really just like a continuation. I don't know. I just like set the intention, I guess, and it happens. I'm like, I want to create something different for people. So the universe was like, okay, you're going to have a near death experience here, and then you're going to have like this huge breakthrough experience that is now one of the main highlights of every Guatemala trip we do.
Yeah. I love that. That's so
Yeah.
cool. Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And what
Yeah. So
areas
stuff
can
like
you elevate in? Where do you feel like you aren't reaching your potential or that you're letting some sort of self-esteem conversation set you back? Is there anything from today's conversation that you can bring in your life more that would allow you to elevate?
That is such a good question. So I had been struggling with like promoting myself, promoting like the trips that I host, and I like bought this course a couple days ago on like, and it was catered to people who host like these types of trips. And I bought this course. It was like $40, not expensive. And it was about kind of how to market these things, and the course sucked. I like felt totally robbed, even though $40 isn't a lot. Like you get what you pay for. But here's what I did learn from that experience. The reason I felt, shy or insecure about promoting my thing was I would see a lot of salespeople and how they promote their stuff, and then their product didn't deliver to my expectations, and then I would feel a certain way. But if you are promoting something that is truly great, you should probably be promoting it more than all the other like sleazy salespeople who don't actually have something of value to offer.
Yeah.
And so it kind of created this like it affirmed to me like I have a really great product though. It's not I'm creating this amazing experience that people cannot have anywhere else. And that's worth like shouting out about on the rooftops. Whereas like if I have something that may or may not deliver or may not be worth someone's money, then it makes sense being insecure about that. But like this is something to feel fully like aligned with.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm hearing you talk about
Yeah,
like yeah, the alignment is important, and until you feel that you can deliver on what you're selling, then you're going to be shy about promoting it.
completely. I feel like a lot of sales is very like they try to connect with people's head versus their heart. And so I feel like even you have a very heart-centered way of going about it where you're trying to just connect with people's vision and what they want for their life versus like you can buy this for 3 easy payments of like, you know, 17.99, whereas like when you are really in your heart about something and you're just genuinely trying to connect with somebody, you don't feel any anxieties about promoting something and it's like you feel proud about it.
Yeah.
So that was like a huge thing that came up for me this week.
I would like to talk about ease a little bit with you. I see this as a topic you've been pretty fascinated with recently. You seem to perceive me as someone that values ease, and then I know you had the experience on that cruise ship in Alaska. Yeah, talk about like what your viewpoint is about like ease creating like the things you want in your life.
Yeah. First of all, like you get this because right now it's all about anything that is worth receiving, you must suffer in order to get it or to achieve these things. There's like a lot of belief in hard work and suffering. I just want to first hear, like, well, I'll go first and then you tell me your experience about it. But yeah, it's like I really believe ease to be like a birthright, like the natural way of things. And the only thing that's hard like is actually ease. Like people are like, "Oh, I need to work hard to achieve this thing," or like you're not working hard enough. Well, I have found ease to literally be the hardest thing for people to tap into.
Mm-hmm.
And life is so paradoxical that way because the more ease you embody, the more abundance you create, and it's like not through hard work, but it's like through your energetic alignment and belief in something.
Yeah, I agree.
Was I know you've like received criticism in your life for really wanting to prioritize ease.
Yeah, I live in a space of like real estate entrepreneurship. It's just so dominated by men. Like the main influencers in my space, which I also really like, are just all like a big aspect for them is like working really hard and this concept of grind and hustle. It's just so pervasive in my spaces I'm in, and I think I don't resonate with it very much. So I don't feel like I'm in some danger of becoming a person doing those things. I just like, okay, well, that person's a little bit less enlightened about life than I am. They've got these other skills and this other forms of knowledge and this other experience that I can really learn from. I'm not going to get to it the way that they're doing it because look at them. Like, it's never in. I don't know. There's this issue about like the thing that scares me about choosing to live life by like how hard you're working is that that's where you start to derive your value from, is that I'm a hardworking person. And I think there's a certain percentage of the population that like if they're like working really hard every day, that is probably like their meaning and their purpose and their highest potential is like being a shining light of that. I don't think that is like a one size fits all, like because I'm designed to work really hard, like everyone else should. And I know for
For
sure
sure.
I am not. Like I know for sure. I like to sleep a long time. I like to meditate a long time. I like to like have my mind not busy with lots of new information and new inputs. I like to meditate on my feelings. I like to have long conversations with people. I'm not out here doing like productive things every moment of my day. Like if you look at me, it doesn't look like I ever work. But there are things in my life that are happening that are the results of working hard. So I think I'm an example of you don't have to work hard to be able to get what you want in life.
Hmm.
What you do need to do is have a clear vision and develop that vision through being an active participant in life. I think you need to try hard to live life to its fullest. Like don't
Hmm.
become complacent, don't become boring, don't become lacking wonder, right? Like turn up those things. Get more curious, get more connected, be more vulnerable. Those things are hard work for a lot of people, and they're avoiding that work, but they're into this doing sort of work. So I've switched more into like
Hmm.
the more I'm leading with ways of being and I'm like turning up the intensity of those ways of being and I'm elevating the vision to be bigger and more inclusive to other people's vision. I'm out there telling a story in a way that I'm being seen and judged and evaluated and measured up against. I am putting all my money on the line sometimes. I am hiring people and letting them represent me and my brand and therefore putting my reputation at stake. Like these are the things that I choose to do instead of more hard doing work. And what I found is where everyone else can't do is no one can stay consistent. No one can stay disciplined. No one can stay focused. And for me, those things are
Hmm.
incredibly easy because like I have teams upon teams of people in my life that are allowing those things to happen and I'm constantly recalibrating what the vision is and getting deeper and more subtle and nuanced about it and it's growing bigger as I grow and so I'm staying in alignment with like the will of my creator in my life and I like that is what I
Hmm.
orient to. It's like how in alignment am I stepping like step by step with the path that God has made for me. Like that is the
Hmm.
work to do. It's not about doing all these things and hitting these markers of success by these dates. Like I'm just so
Yeah.
not motivated by that stuff. Yeah.
Respect. Yeah. It's like you could almost argue that like hard work is actually easy because you're just repeating actions, whereas like fully being comfortable in your being and like really having faith in the God or higher power that you say you believe in to provide for you, like that's where the magic happens, and like that is much harder than repeating actions. And it's, yeah, it's only hard because maybe it's not always, it's the thing is it's both hard and it's easy, but like once you do it you're like, oh, all this abundance just like flows to me because it's my nature.
Yeah, I think the hard
And then
part is
the,
like
like you
actually
said.
like living your true nature. Like that's what's hard. And that's where
Yeah.
the hard work needs to be positioned. It's not like this series of doing checklists that hit these targets of activity where you made this many calls or you sent this many messages. Like that's not where the hard work needs to be applied as much. Like your organization or your team needs to do those things. But for me, my role in that is not I'm not sending the messages, I'm not doing the calls, I'm not checking my email, I'm not showing up to these meetings, I'm not doing the sales, I'm not fulfilling the product. Like my team is doing all those things. But where I need to be focused on is like, am I being authentic to my purpose? Am I in lockstep with like the creative force in my life? Am I putting myself in environments where I am being shown new ideas and I'm able to explore those curiosities? Am I able to draw boundaries in my relationships where I have the right people influencing me? Am I able to have
Hmm.
access to people for uninterrupted periods of time to ask questions that are deep and vulnerable and like challenging for me to like figure out on my own? Can I like be disciplined enough to meditate for long periods of time? Can I move to Thailand for 6 months and have a kid because I know that's where we're going to get a lot of support? Should I reach out to this big time podcast person that like I really want to know about because I just read their book and it would take me 5 minutes to reach out? That's the thing. It's a 5 minute action. It's not like a ton of work to like
Hmm.
ChatGPT. I like all these things about this author. Please write an intro email that would like get them to want to do a podcast with me. That takes 90 seconds to like speak into ChatGPT and it's like
Hmm.
95% done. It's not
Hmm.
hard work. It's about being
Hmm.
hardcore like aligned to your truest identity. That's the stuff that I think people
Hmm.
just like stop working on or don't care about or like plateau about or feel like it's scary to look into my mind or those type of things that I find people are avoiding.
Yeah. The moments that I make the most money are the moments that I just feel the most connected to myself. Like I had my biggest month in business when I was like sitting in bed and like not doing anything. It was like this aha moment. I'm like, man, I struggle so hard just to feel this at ease, only to get everything that I want.
Hmm.
And it almost feels like I feel like saying this, like people look down on it, but it's like, why? Like it's your nature too. And so for the people who struggle with that, what is something that you would say to them before we wrap up here?
Yeah, so in the last 5 weeks, I did a 10-day meditation, silent meditation, where I checked my phone in. I had a baby. I've sold 6 houses. We've bought another five. My net worth has gone up like 40, 50 grand, and I made $6,000 in cash, and my Bitcoin rose like another 6 grand. And I haven't really worked.
You poor
It's just
thing.
happening. And I would say like it's a result of being able to like trust and let go, and to know that I invested in people that can take care. Like I tend to create community as a solution in my life. So it's like, all right, my wife is like gonna be overwhelmed by having a kid. Like, let's go around her parents and her nieces and nephews, and like let's be in an environment where money doesn't really matter here very much, like in our life, and let's give ourselves time and stillness. And sure, like once that decision's made, like life actually becomes really easy. So I would just say like continue to trust like the decisions that you know are like aligned to your authentic nature, and put you in positions to continuously study your authentic nature. And study is a balance of
Hmm.
like getting experiences and reflecting on them and learning from others' experiences. It's not just reading about other people. That's not studying. Like you need to, the best form of wisdom is like living your life and then looking at the results and the impact and the ways that I'm changing and transforming because I lived my life. And I would say like having a baby and moving to Thailand, doing a 10-day meditation, and having a company that's selling and buying houses, and having a podcast that I'm interviewing people on, and having people that I put into the Atlas Leadership Program coming to me and talking about their breakthroughs they have. I'm living life. But I'm also, if you look at my day and you follow me around, like I'm in my messages about 45 minutes a day, and the rest of the time I'm reading and writing and thinking and watching documentaries and taking naps and meditating and eating food. And like it's not work. Like, but it's just like little bits of like, I believe in you, you've got this. Make sure that here's this YouTube thing. I like this lady's YouTube. I think what she says about this, that, and that's interesting. That's like the little work. That's like the
Hmm.
work I do. Is I'm just investing in this circle of humans, and then I'm ideating the next thing. Like the next vision for me is bring 25 people to Thailand, live on Phuket for a week, and like fall in love with like life. Like that's bring all these people from all these different backgrounds in my life, and get really cool Airbnb near the beach, and get motorbikes, and like get massages, and go scuba diving, and do yoga, and drink fresh juices, and talk to people from England, and go to like Michelin star restaurants, and like that's what we're going to do for 5 or 6 days. And that's like what I'm putting together, and I'm
Hmm.
messaging people in the background about that, and we've got 11 people now. It's like for that trip. But I wouldn't get to have that space and that time had I not had a vision. And then like brick by brick, like, okay, the company starts with me, then it's about partners, and then it's like my new partner is Visa. They've got 20 grand I can use. I'm going to just blow it all on the next thing my business needs. And sure, I'm in debt temporarily. My credit score looks like I'm a loser, but I know what I'm doing this for. I didn't spend this at the mall off of impulse. Like it has a real meaning and purpose here. And then it's like, okay, I've got this coach, and they introduced me to this thing, and now this business model opened up, and then I tried this sales thing, and then that actually opened up owning my first property. And then I said I wanted a house, and I journaled it out, and 40 days later I got a house that's like the perfect house for me in Kansas City. And then it's like, okay, I want to live in Thailand part-time of the year. How's that going to happen? Boom, now that's happening. uh, I want to go scuba diving 3 times a week. That's going to become my reality. I'm probably going to write a book about my life in Thailand eventually. I want to build purpose-driven living communities. Like I want to work on hard projects. I just don't want to work hard to make them happen. Like it's, I find people that
I love
actually
that.
are like hardworking people, and that really is like how they're wired, and that's where they're finding joy and happiness, purpose, and maybe sometimes they go too much about hard work. But in general, like I can tell, like this person, if they try to live like me, they would not be very fulfilled or content. Like they actually do need to be doing a lot of doing. There are people like that. Like I
Hmm.
think Phil is someone like that. Phil, like
Yeah.
I've observed him
Can't
try to
go to
not do
sleep.
stuff. He's not in ease and flow. He's in ease and flow when he's constantly working hard on things. And so I just observe that in people. And I'm like, okay, that's a good match for me, because I'm not going to be that person
Mm.
that's doing sales calls all the time or raising money or whatever. But he likes that stuff. And if he doesn't have it, he gets
Yeah.
antsy and wants to start the next thing. I'm perfectly fine about like, let's just keep chilling. Like I can go months
Yeah, I
and
love
months and
that
months of not working. It doesn't bother me.
for sure. Amazing. Amazing. I I really enjoyed this.
I hope the listeners did too. Sometimes I don't know
Yeah.
if I should be the guest on my podcast, but I guess at certain times it's important to check in with who I am and what I'm up to and stuff. I just
Yeah. I think there's a lot of great takeaways.
yeah, it's hard for me to realize like what is insightful or profound for people, because it's just like it's just my life. I'm in it all the time. I don't like see what's so novel or profound or what's going to really land with people. So it's good practice to be interviewed by people and kind of see what people might, yeah, especially as this gets dropped out there with like different reels in the episode itself. It's always nourishing to have like, I don't know, like 3 to 5 people reach out and be like, what you said about this thing was really insightful, or
That's awesome.
yeah. Those are the things that keep me having a podcast. Otherwise, I wouldn't do
That's
the
really
work
cool.
of like making sure we can record and like have a. I'm not doing this for some ego that I have a podcast and I'm cool. It's like I would probably prefer to just be on like my phone, WhatsApp, and my hammock right now talking to you about these things. But I know that there's value in like getting this stuff out into the world, because there are
Hmm.
people that haven't been exposed to this level of awareness or consciousness or intentionality, and
Hmm.
it matters that the world has more of that, and I can contribute it with pretty low amount of effort.
Hmm. Let's go.
Yeah.
Amazing. Thanks, Tanner. I love this so much. I'm gonna listen. I'm gonna listen to this podcast.
Okay, I hope that's a good life decision for you. What's up, people of purpose? Today I'm here with my good friend Tanin. Tanin and I have known each other for a few years. We first met at an authors event that we really like. Alex Benayan from The Third Door. Thank you for putting us in the same space. When she was getting in an Uber somewhere else, I convinced her to change her plans to Uber with me and Phil to a house party, and then we subtly invited her to come live with us in Kansas City. And now she's got this really cool company going called Rise and Roam, which takes people on these immersive experiences into other countries and indigenous cultures within those countries to observe just the wonder and awe of life. And Tanin hit me up recently about wanting to talk about the concept of self-esteem, and saw me as someone that has a good, healthy grasp of self-esteem in my life, and she wanted to break down those, how I became that way. And so today we had a really nice conversation about just where we find meaning and purpose from, and what self-identity is, and how we stay true to ourselves. And yeah, it was fun to get to talk to her and catch up. And so I hope you guys enjoyed this episode today where I'm the guest, a little bit different than normal. So enjoy today's episode, and here's to becoming people of purpose.
You're really good at this.